Hello, friends and colleagues. Welcome in for my senior research paper presentation. My senior research paper was titled Exploring Embodied States of Awareness in Senior Leadership, a Phenomenological Analysis of Dysregulated DISA, MISA, and RISA states using body-focused interviewing technique. My research paper project, what that means is that the paper the project is based on three main bodies of work. The first is Alan Fogel's work on embodied states of awareness. That's the DISA, MISA, and RISA embodied states of awareness. The second is based on the body-focused interviewing technique, which was created by Jennifer Frank Tantia. What's special about the body-focused interview technique is that the researcher is bringing the research participants' attention out of a story of recalling a past experience and telling the story of that event and interrupting them and bringing their attention into the present unfolding experience that is occurring on and in their bodies while they recall this event. Now, the researcher might also be aware of their own embodied experience while being with that individual. What this brings out is the felt experience of the participant and that felt sense. And this is the third leg of the research stool, or in the body of work around the literature review that I'm really curious to look into and to research, and that is Gendelin's work on the felt experience. What is the felt experience? The felt experience is more than just making an I feel statement. The felt experience is implicit, sensational experience with meaning that unfolds in the present. And oftentimes, the role of the therapist or the other body or nervous system in the relationship is to bring the felt experience out of the individual in a creative, collaborative, and compassionate way. This quality or texture of experience in Gendelin's work was found to be the primary indicator of an adaptive, transformational therapeutic relationship. It was the ability of the researcher or the therapist or the coach or the manager with the participant to coactively create an environment where they could both access the felt sense. Now, what I think is really interesting or maybe similar is that the restorative embodied state of awareness from Fogel, that quality or texture of experience is very similar, if not the same experience labeled from two different perspectives. So we have the felt sense and we have the restorative embodied state of awareness. So what did I do in my research project? I found three senior leaders. These were leaders who have been in their role for at least 5 years, and they had three reports who are all active managers of at least 3 individuals each, meaning these are senior leadership inside of companies. Why did I pick senior leaders? Because of research showing that senior leadership and managers have more of an effect on a person's well-being and mental health than even a therapist or their choice of life partner. So what this means is that the manager or leader that's running your team has more of an effect on your mental and emotional health than your partner or your therapist. And so my intention is to focus on the embodied state of awareness of those individuals in order to equip those individuals with tools and skills that will allow them to create environments that are psychologically safe and that have the tools to adapt and to grow using compassionate embodied leadership in the challenge zone. And I think that this is a very, very important thing for today's workforce and well-being, where we're spending the majority of time at work and where we're not able to give up on the coactive activities of creating together. So how do we do it, turn towards suffering, and actually create environments that are psychologically safe and can perform together? And my sense is that we can do it by learning more about the embodied state of awareness of managers, leaders, and teams. So what did I find? I downloaded the research project itself. Was over 5 weeks. We did 4 sessions. Each of the participants had a kickoff or intro session where we did a mini lesson on DISA, MISA, and RISA. I shared with them in the lesson what it was, what each of the states are, and I asked them to report on it. And we had a few minutes to connect the dots and to make sure we both felt like either one of us understood and connected and affirmed on what a DISA, MISA, and RISA state are. We also had our first opportunity to do a check-in and to practice creating an environment where we could create we could create the environment of relational collaboration with one another and feel comfortable in that for the first time. Then we met 3 more times. In those 3 sessions, we checked in on DISA, MISA, and RISA, and I asked the participants to reflect back to me on an experience. And then I used the body-focused interviewing technique in order to bring their attention out of their heads and into their bodies and to get into that felt sense. After the research paper or the research activities were finished over 5 weeks, I collected all of the data, downloaded it, and put it into Excel. And then I broke each of them down into DISA, MISA, and RISA. And here's what I found. I'm pretty excited to share this. This is a doodle of what I found. So within DISA, MISA, and RISA, outlined by Fogel originally, I found that I could group the activities into 11 subcategories. I'm not going to get into all of these subcategories right now, but what I want you to notice is they exist like a ladder. And so RISA is like an experience of a restorative embodied state of awareness that deepens our relationship with that quality of being. So maybe a spiritual experience. This happened with a couple of the participants, and they reported on having this experience over the weekend or in a retreat. And it was a very special experience. RISA was like driving home in the car at the end of the day, seeing the sunset, and all of a sudden just having a sense of aliveness come over you, letting go of everything and appreciating life. RISA, MISA is characterized by being in a restorative embodied state of awareness and all of a sudden noticing it and starting to modulate that. I would say that this is like an example of Deb Dana's glimmers to glows exercise, where you notice a glimmer, a ventral vagal state of openness or connection in the nervous system, which is a restorative embodied state of awareness, and you breathe into it and allow it to move, allow it to grow through the body. Why is this important? For many individuals, a restorative embodied state of awareness can be also then accompanied later, very quickly, which takes you out of it, by fear, because this can involve surrender or letting go. And we spend so much of our life in modulation, that modulation can come back in really quickly. And so how do we train a manager or leader who's constantly modulating their experience to be able to relax into this environment? And so this is what I'm excited to share most, is that I found all the participants reported on flow and a special state that I'm going to put below it called the RISA slide. And this is a name that I'm making up for it. Flow was characterized as modulation, but with creative focus and attunement or difficulty, just at the edge of that modulation ability and the contribution of something creative. But then this RISA slide was using modulation behaviors in order to create the inner and outer environment and the conditions to be able to slide or to surrender into RISA. And I see the potential of being able to learn more about that state and those skills and to teach managers and leaders those skills so that they could pass that quality on to their team, or at least learn or gain insights that allow them to become more wise, more deliberate, embodied leaders in the future. I'm going to jump up here just because I'm not trying to keep this presentation to under 10 minutes. I found a similar edge or threshold here in the DISA-RISA state, what I call the first responder mode. What first responder mode is intentionally moving into a dysregulated embodied state of awareness or an experience that should be dysregulating using specially designed or practiced modulation skills in order to respond to a challenge, knowing full well that by staying in that zone too long, I could be dysregulated myself. And so I labeled that first responder activities. This is like an engineering team banding together to fix something, staying up late at night or for a couple of days when something's broken. The DISA slide corresponds to the RISA slide. What the DISA slide is being in DISA and learning to let go or to relax into a modulated embodied state of awareness in order to get out of that dysregulated embodied state of awareness with more ease and grace and attunement, which I think is a particularly important skill in terms of relational effectiveness, especially when dealing with difficult people or dealing with somebody who might be aggressive or upset. How do we respond to that while maintaining attuned connection and coactive relationships? I think that a few of the participants reported on experiences like that, and I would put those in the DISA slide category. Really right on the edge, I think, of what we might call compassionate embodied leadership skills. And so these are the 11 subcategories that I'm going to be reporting on in my research paper. But that's it. Thank you so much for watching my senior research paper presentation video. It's been such a pleasure to get to go through this year together with all of you, this transformational period in our lives. I can't wait to watch your presentations and wish you all luck in your life and work, and relationships, and where you go in the world after this. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day.